Okay, hi, I'm here to show you part 2 of the lab where we tested stomach contents. So let me kind of just talk you through the setup real quick. Each of the groups was given a solution of stomach contents that we're trying to link to a particular restaurant. So a man was pulled from the CalSAG. The cold water kind of interfered with our ability to use things like rigor or liver to determine his time of death. So instead, what police are going to do is try to figure out where his last meal was to establish, kind of a timeline in that way. So again, whether that would work in real life, I don't know, but it was kind of fun to work in just a little bit of thinking about what was in somebody's stomach. So each of the groups was given kind of a solution that is our unknown. We don't know whether this has sugar, starches, proteins, or fat in it. So we're going to run it through the same 3 tests, well, actually 4 tests, I guess, that we did in class. Remember, the first test was to test for sugar. We use something called Benedict's to do that. We add that to the solution, and then we warm it up in our water bath. And if we see the color changes from the blue color to like an orange or a yellow, we know we have sugar present. The second test we did was iodine. Iodine tests for starch. So if there's starch is present, a positive result will show me like a black or kind of a purple color change. If there is no starch present, it will show me, it will remain gold, which is the color of iodine. Our third test was to test for protein. That's Biuret. Again, Biuret in the presence of a protein will turn kind of like a pinkish, maybe mauve color. And in the absence of protein, it will remain this kind of blue color that Biuret is. The last test is the paper bag test, where we are putting the solution onto a brown paper bag to test whether we have the presence of fats. If fat is present, the spot on the paper will not dry. And it will, when we hold it up to the light, we'll be able to see the light through. In other words, I describe that as translucent, like we'll see the light coming through the paper towel. If we don't see the light coming through, we know fat is not present, and so we would describe that as being opaque. All right? So what I wanted everybody to do in class was to water down. Our stomach contents are a little bit chunky. So again, it's not quite like doing the stuff in class where the solutions were very clear. This is going to give us kind of a milky look when we add it to our test tube, and sometimes that can interfere with kind of our interpretation of those results. But so what I do is I've got 3 test tubes here. I've added some water to the bottom of each of them, and to it I'm going to just add sort of 1 dropper full of our solution. Again, roughly what I'm doing is 1 part water to 1 part stomach contents, just to make sure that the solutions can mix well enough. So if I just put the stomach contents in there, I would not necessarily, it gets a little too like clumpy, and sometimes we can't see everything. So again, I'm just kind of mixing them up to make sure. I have 3 test tubes that are basically the same now, and I'm gonna run these through our 3 different tests. So I'm gonna get my Benedict's going first. So Benedict's requires the hot water, so my water's getting nice and hot right here. So to it, I'm gonna add roughly about 1 dropper full. I might actually add a little bit of extra just to make the reaction happen faster, if it's going to happen. We don't know if it will. So I've added my Benedict's to the tube. I'm gonna go ahead and let it sit in the hot water for a few minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll look at that at the end. Now, while that's warming up, let's take a look at our iodine test. So again, iodine tests for starch. So it will turn black if starch is present, and it will stay gold if it's not. So when I add the starch to it, or excuse me, the iodine to it, hopefully you can see pretty quickly that we get that black reaction, sort of showing the presence of starch. Okay. Now, our Biuret tests for protein, as I said before. A negative test is that it will stay blue, and a positive test is that it will change kind of a purple or maybe mauve, I think is the way I described it. So I'm going to add a little extra of the Bayou-Rhett, it's a little light. And so just to make sure we're actually seeing the color, I'm going to add 3 dropperfuls. I might even add a little bit more here just so it's a little bit easier to see. And so really, and again, remember the tube is not clear, but what I'm getting here is basically a blue reaction. I'm not seeing protein present in these stomach contents, okay? So again, in our starch test, we definitely see starch. In our iodine or our Bayou-Rhett for protein, we do not see any protein, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at the brown bag test. So a few minutes ago, I went ahead and I put a few drops of this on the brown paper towel, and I gave it a chance to dry. So what you're seeing here is it's pretty translucent. I can see that light behind me pretty well. So again, that would be a positive reaction for fats. Now let's take a last look here at our Benedict's. That's the one that tests for sugar. Let's see if I can get this with my fingers. So again, that spent some time in there. Down at the bottom, what I'm starting to do is actually cook my reaction. So the brown that you're seeing at the bottom is because there's food particles floating in there, and when you expose them to heat, they start to brown. But my actual tube itself remains blue. So again, just to kind of make sure you're seeing these results one more time, what I'm going to ask you do is you go back and you look at those receipts that we found in each person's pocket or in the man's pocket and make some predictions about what you would expect to find in their stomach. And then from these results, I'm going to ask you do that little claim evidence reasoning at the end to conclude where it is you think he ate. Please also include how you were able to eliminate some of those other restaurants. And then, of course, just kind of make sure that you're citing your data. So in your claim evidence reasoning, if you would include a data table that kind of shows what you're seeing here in the video. So again, for the Benedict's reaction, we had a negative reaction, okay, meaning we did not find any sugar in that stomach contents. For our starch reaction, we had a positive reaction. It turned black. So we do find starch in the man's stomach. For the protein test, it remained blue. So in this case, this is a negative reaction for protein. We do not see that. And again, my brown bag test, we see that it is translucent on the brown paper, meaning it is positive for fats. So again, as you take a look at those at those receipts, please try to figure out which restaurant that would lead you to conclude. If you have any questions, please reach out to me.